Well, good morning. Welcome to Bramble Mere Fishery. This is a brand new fishery opening up in the Cotswold Water Park. It's been a syndicate for the last 15-20 years or so, but now it's available on a booking basis. We've been given permission to come a week early because the booking's starting next week. So yeah, very privileged to come down and fish for these beautiful scaly carp. We got down last night, met with the owner Steve. He pointed us in a general area where a lot of the fish have been coming out. There's a guy down to our right and he's had 3 or 4 of the last night or so. So for us it's a great area to come and sort of target. So we plonked our gear down and the first thing I did was have a lead about. Just a bare lead, that was all, no marker float at all. Have a little skip around and there's a pretty obvious feature out there, which is a big hump that comes up, which is absolutely perfect for this time of year. You've got the fish moving about mid-water and the depth round the hump's round about sort of 7-8 foot anyway, but it comes up to about 5 foot, so it's right in their line this time of year. Set about putting a little bit of bait out with the throwing stick, not too much because I say it's still early, really just into April, and it's been really cold. I've been suffering the last week with a massive headache and flu-like symptoms, so edge on the side of Corson with the bait, and I put over the top of that 3 hook baits, all with single white pop-ups, and they're just absolutely deadly this time of year. One point worth mentioning, once I had all the rods out on the positional spot on the big hump, I then set up the marker float and just punched it out to the side, just so I got a reference to put bait. So I wanted a nice tight area, and what I was finding, if you can get a nice tight area on that hump with 3 white hook baits over the top, in the hope that when the fish come over that area, there's a lot of bait there for them to target all the tight area, but they're picking out the white hook bait straight away. And that actually worked for me because I've got a fish in the sling to show you now, just on that method. Look at that for a cracking Bramble Mere common. There's actually loads and loads of scaly mirrors in here, and I was hoping for one of them if I'm truth be known, but I'm not fussed. This is, I think there's only 13 of these commons in the lake, and I've caught one of them, so hey, lucky for some. Always great to get your first one from the lake, and I'm made up with this common, an absolute belter. But you never know, might be a time for one of those scaly ones. But in the meantime, I'm going to get this fella back and I'll talk you through the rig. Well, this is the rig that I seem to be favouring more and more for my fishing now. It's actually a hybrid of different concepts that all come together to make a very effective and a very easy to use rig. Critical part of it for me is being able to change the hook. I'm very, very fussy about hook points, and you only got to dink it over on a bit of gravel, or if a fish, luckily if you have a fish or two, or even a few bream or tench, nuisance species, they can dull the hook point. And for me, a rig that you can change everything over as quick as a flash is absolutely imperative, and this rig lends itself to that perfectly. The boom section at the bottom there, great fanning, sending the hook bait out away from the lead as much as you can, extending it out so as soon as the fish picks up the hook bait, it's in direct contact with the lead, so that's a really important key. You can mix up the boom section. This is IQ2, which is a good all-rounder, lays over lots of obstacles on the bottom, but I have on occasion used the mouth trap in 25 when I know it's really, really clean out there. Again, throws everything out and brings everything in direct contact. So I've actually used this rig for pop-up fishing, for critically balanced baits and bottom baits as well, so it's really universal. Use it on all sorts of terrains and bottoms. So I'll just talk you through how to tie it, and the thing that's different about it is I'm using an Albright knot. You know, a lot of guys have heard of that, but I actually double up the material to make a loop. It's quite fiddly to tie, but once mastered it means you can tie up lots of these little boom sections with loops on the end, and then those rigs will last you half a season. You can keep on reusing them time and time again, so it saves actually on the pocket, so you're not having to waste materials all the time. So as I say, you make the loop, you go around, just double it up, go back through, pull it down nice and tight, so it forms a nice loop on the end, and then you can attach a tiny bit of silicone. So I put on about a 1.5 2 mil bit of silicone, followed then by a little ring swivel, which your bait's going to be attached to, and the hook as well. So once you've lassoed all that together, you create a very tidy, neat little rig, and there's no actual knot bar the Albright knot there, so you're going straight through. And this has another really good function as well. So what I found is if fish picks the hook bait up, if it managed to shakes the hook bait out, which happens a lot, you know, we've seen it on a lot of the underwater footage, what can happen is if it managed to shake the hook out, Because the hook goes into the fish's bottom lip and pulls, what happens is that loop, you can see, pulls down tight like that. And that will tell you, if you bring the rods in the morning and that's happened, invariably that's happened with a fish shaking the hook out. So it's a really good indicator. You get a few bleeps in the night, you wind it in the morning, that's happened. 9 times out of 10, the fish has done that. So really good indicator as well. Moving on to the Albright knot, I cover that in some dark matter. I favour quite a heavy bit, so it forces the hook point downwards, which is always good for hook holds, brings it in contact with the bottom lip that much quicker. So neaten that up, and then when you get to the end, it terminates. You can either have a loop on this section, or I tend to tie it straight to a little quick link with a little sleeve over the top, which goes onto a leg clip system, or can go onto a helicopter style rotary rig. So again, very, very versatile rig, can be fished absolutely anywhere, and importantly, it can tell you what's going on in the swim. As far as sort of single hook bait fishing goes, you know, colour at this time of year is absolutely key. You know, you can't fail to see, you know, plastic sweet corn on the bottom, you know, bright fleck of colour, sparks an interest. If you can mix that with, say, good food signals coming off a pop-up mix, good flavour blends as well, which disperse a nice soluble signal into the water, get all those three things working, and suddenly you've got a really, really attractive bait. And this time of year, it really does trip them up. You know, the fish are coming out of the winter, metabolism's slow, they're looking for food, a pop-up, a bright bait just guides them in, and it just, you know, a strong food signal. You get away with it this time of year, as opposed to when they've been caught a few times in June or July and their metabolism's high, they can become a bit more switched on in terms of bright baits and probably shy away, and that's when to go over the sort of the duller food baits. But this time of year, bar none, is the best time to be fishing bright, high attract hook baits, because those fish can't resist. As soon as they come out of the winter summer, they're looking for food, and that is a massive beacon. Well, I had a little occurrence about 2 hours ago now. The middle rod indicator pulled up tight, and I thought, hello, we're away here. Got down to the rod, but nothing else happened, just stayed there. So could have been a liner, could have been a fish ejecting the rig, getting rid of it, not sure. So what I'm going to do now is whip the rod in and see. I can tell by that rig if the bait's been taken by a fish, and if it's been pulled down nice and tight, the bait to the eye of the hook. Great little indicator. If that has happened, I'm probably going to stay here to the evening, stretch it out a little bit long, because there's obviously fish here. If I bring it in and nothing's happened, and it was just maybe a liner or a bit of weed hitting the line, then I'm probably going to have a little look and see if there's an opportunity for some fish around the lake, especially down in the bay where I've seen a couple today already. So let's get it in and see what's happened. Okay, so there we can see, look, I swung the rig straight in, and straight away you can see the rig, everything's in the same position. So that tells me a fish hasn't picked up the rig. So that indication I've had is probably a liner, a fish moving close in, or a bit of weed, or it could be a number of things, or birds hitting the line maybe. So yeah, it's a good visual indicator that if the fish had, say, pricked the hook, like I demonstrated earlier, pull that down nice and tight. The birds don't generally do that because they come and grab the bait, they don't actually grab the hook. So it's only a fish that does that. So with that information now, I'm going to probably have a little wander around, have a look. I've seen a few fish moving in the bay to my right, so probably going to go and explore that and see if we can induce a bite. Well, here we are set up now in the little bay. Just brought 3 rods down really simply. Put a smaller little lead on as well, just to create minimal disturbance. There's obviously fish down here. I've literally just flicked them out where I've seen that fish roll. So very, very close in. Unfortunately, Elliot's got to go in about an hour, but he did, true to form, always catches one. He had a beautiful 15, 16 pound original out of here, which the colours on it are immense. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful fish. I'm hopeful I'm trying to catch one now in the last hour. Fingers crossed, eh? up against it a little bit, I suppose. Either way, if you put these tactics into your own fishing, I'm sure to catch you plenty of spring carp. I'm going to move all my gear down here because the temptation of another one of those Bramble mere fish, especially after seeing Elliott's and that, I'd love to try and catch one. So I'm going to move the gear down here. I've got my camera, so anything I catch, I'll send over to Elliott, and hopefully you get to see it on the end of the video. How's that for a little cracker? Glad I stayed on the extra night in the end. This was taking on the old little white pop-ups that I showed you. Absolutely deadly this time of year. Fortunately I couldn't catch one of the really scaly ones in here, but my mate did, who popped in for the night. So he had a lovely 22.5 pounder. Absolutely gorgeous fish. But for now I'm going to get this fella back and get off, and I vow to be back at this venue later on in the year. But for now, this has made me very happy on a very, very cold April morning.